The world watched with bated breath as Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday, May 10, 2025, extended an olive branch, or at least what appeared to be one. In a move that caught many off guard, Putin addressed the international community with a proposal that seemed to signal a shift in his stance on the ongoing conflict. He proposed direct talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Istanbul, Turkey. The choice of Istanbul, a city that straddles both Europe and Asia, was symbolic, representing a bridge between two worlds and a potential path to reconciliation. The date, Thursday, May 15, 2025. This gave both sides just 5 days to prepare for what could be a historic meeting. The stated aim to eliminate the root causes of the conflict and secure a long-term, durable peace. The world hoped that this meeting would pave the way for a new era of stability in the region. This came against the backdrop of a brutal conflict, one that has left Ukraine scarred and its people yearning for an end to the bloodshed. The images of war-torn streets and devastated communities were a stark reminder of the human cost of this conflict. Putin's proposal, while unexpected, was not entirely out of the blue. Analysts had noted subtle shifts in his rhetoric over the past few months, hinting at a possible change in strategy. The conflict, now in its third year, has exacted a heavy toll on both sides. Thousands of lives have been lost and millions have been displaced, creating a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. Sanctions imposed by the West have crippled the Russian economy, while Ukraine has faced relentless bombardment and a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. The economic strain and the human suffering have been felt deeply by both nations. The international community, caught in the crossfire of this geopolitical earthquake, has been urging for a peaceful resolution. However, skepticism ran high. Many questioned whether this was a genuine attempt at peace or merely a strategic ploy. Putin's past actions, including the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the recent invasion, have led many to view his motives with suspicion. The memories of these aggressive moves were still fresh in the minds of many. The timing of the proposal, coming just days after a brief ceasefire for Russia's Victory Day celebrations, only added to the uncertainty. Was this a calculated move to gain favor on the international stage? Was this a genuine offer of peace or a tactical maneuver to buy time and deflect mounting international pressure? The world was left to ponder the true intentions behind this unexpected proposal. As the world waited with bated breath for Zelensky's response, the stage was set for a diplomatic dance fraught with peril and uncertainty. The Ukrainian leader's decision would be crucial in determining the next steps in this high-stakes situation. The fate of Ukraine, and perhaps even the wider world order, hung precariously in the balance. The coming days would reveal whether this proposal would lead to peace or plunge the region into further turmoil. The weight of a nation's hopes and anxieties rested on Volodymyr Zelensky's shoulders as he weighed Putin's offer. On Sunday, May 11, 2025, the Ukrainian president responded, choosing his words carefully, measuring each syllable as if it carried the weight of artillery shells. He acknowledged Putin's proposal as a positive sign, a glimmer of hope in the darkness of war. Zelensky expressed Ukraine's willingness to engage in dialogue, a testament to his commitment to finding a peaceful resolution. However, Zelensky's acceptance came with a crucial caveat, a non-negotiable condition that underscored Ukraine's distrust and determination. He insisted on a ceasefire, a complete cessation of hostilities, beginning on May 12, 2025, just 1 day later. This demand was not merely a bargaining chip, it was a fundamental prerequisite for any meaningful dialogue. The world watched as Ukraine, battered but unbowed, refused to be rushed into negotiations under the shadow of Russian aggression. Zelensky's demand for a ceasefire before talks was a clear message to Putin and the world. Ukraine would not be bullied into submission. They were prepared to talk, but only on their own terms. Zelensky's measured response, balancing cautious optimism with unwavering resolve, set the stage for a high-stakes diplomatic standoff. The world held its breath, the fate of Ukraine hanging in the balance, as the international community waited to see if Putin would accept this crucial condition. Zelensky's cautious acceptance of Putin's offer was met with a swift and unified response from Ukraine's allies. The international community, particularly Ukraine's closest allies, wasted no time in voicing their concerns and objections. The United States, France, Britain, Germany, and Poland, key players in the ongoing geopolitical drama, vocally rejected the Russian president's proposal. Their collective stance was clear and unwavering, reflecting a deep-seated mistrust of Putin's intentions. They demanded a 30-day unconditional ceasefire as a non-negotiable prerequisite for any talks. This demand was not just a formality but a crucial step to ensure that any negotiations would be conducted in good faith and without the shadow of ongoing violence. This demand for a cessation of hostilities before negotiations underscored the deep mistrust towards Putin's intentions and a commitment to ensuring a level playing field for any future dialogue. The Allies were adamant that without a ceasefire, any talks would be futile and merely a tactic by Putin to buy time. Keith Kellogg, former U.S. General and Special Envoy to Ukraine for the Trump administration, articulated the Allies' stance, stating, "An unconditional ceasefire first and during it, move into comprehensive peace discussions. Not the other way around." His words resonated with the collective sentiment of the Allied nations. His words, firm and unambiguous, reflected the prevailing sentiment in Western capitals, that Putin's offer, devoid of a concrete commitment to ending the violence, rang hollow. The Allies were united in their belief that any genuine effort towards peace must begin with an immediate halt to hostilities. French President Emmanuel Macron echoed this sentiment, labeling Putin's offer not enough. He was vocal about the need for a clear and unequivocal commitment to peace from the Russian side. He emphasized, an unconditional ceasefire is not preceded by negotiations, by definition. Macron's insistence on this point highlighted the Allies' collective resolve to not be swayed by half measures or vague promises. Macron's words were laced with a hint of frustration, accusing Putin of looking for a way out and buying time rather than engaging in genuine peace efforts. His frustration was shared by many who saw Putin's offer as a strategic ploy rather than a sincere gesture. The chorus of condemnation was joined by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who minced no words in his demand for Putin's univocal decision on an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. Tusk's direct approach underscored the urgency and gravity of the situation. His statement, reflecting the anxieties of a nation sharing a border with Ukraine and bearing the brunt of the refugee crisis, underscored the urgency of the situation. Poland, more than any other nation, felt the immediate impact of the conflict, making Tusk's call for a ceasefire all the more pressing. Section 4. The ticking clock of sanctions. The Allied demand for a ceasefire was not merely a rhetorical flourish, it came with a clear and unambiguous ultimatum. The leaders of the Western world stood united, presenting a formidable front against Russian aggression. Their message was resolute and unwavering. Russia had until Monday to accept the proposal or face a new wave of massive sanctions, a clear signal that the West was prepared to escalate economic pressure on the Kremlin. The financial markets reacted swiftly, with investors bracing for potential turmoil. The clock was ticking, each tick a stark reminder of the high stakes involved. Every second that passed brought the world closer to a critical juncture, a point of no return. These threatened sanctions were not mere pinpricks. They were designed to inflict real pain on the already strained Russian economy. The sanctions aimed to cripple key industries and disrupt the financial networks that supported the Kremlin's war efforts. They were designed to inflict real pain on the already strained Russian economy. Factories were closing, and the economic outlook was becoming increasingly bleak for ordinary Russians. Targeting key sectors and individuals deemed crucial to Putin's regime, the sanctions aimed to weaken the very foundation of his power. Oligarchs and business magnates found themselves in the crosshairs, their fortunes and influence at risk. They represented a significant escalation in the West's economic warfare against Russia. Analysts debated the potential outcomes, weighing the risks and benefits of such a bold strategy. The message was clear: peace talks without a ceasefire were unacceptable. The international community demanded a halt to hostilities as a precondition for any meaningful dialogue, and the cost of intransigence would be high. The regions affected by the conflict faced dire consequences, with humanitarian crises looming large. This ultimatum highlighted the delicate balancing act facing the international community. The stakes were incredibly high and the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. On the one hand, there was a desire to encourage dialogue and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Peace rallies and diplomatic efforts underscored the yearning for a return to stability. On the other hand, there was a recognition that Russia could not be allowed to dictate the terms of negotiations from a position of military strength. The balance of power needed to be addressed to ensure a fair and lasting peace. The sanctions were a gamble, a high-stakes move in the geopolitical chess game. a calculated risk aimed at forcing Putin's hand and creating the conditions for meaningful peace talks. The world watched with bated breath, hoping for a breakthrough. The world held its breath as the deadline approached. The tension was palpable, with every news update adding to the sense of urgency. Would Putin buckle under the pressure and agree to a ceasefire, or would he call the West's bluff, risking further economic isolation and potentially even military escalation? The stakes could not be higher. Or would he call the West's bluff, risking further economic isolation and potentially even military escalation? The world watched, waiting for his next move. The future of Ukraine, and perhaps even the wider international order, hung precariously in the balance. The decisions made in the coming days would shape the course of history. Section 5. Putin's calculated silence.